Hello, everyone, and welcome to Africa Fire Mission's weekly virtual training session. My name is Mike. I'm a project coordinator with Africa Fire Mission, and we're so happy that you took time out of your schedules to come and join us for today's virtual training session. Today, we've got Richard Gichina here with us. He's one of AFM's fire safety advocate volunteers, and he's going to be leading a class today about fire prevention in the schools. It's a really timely subject. I know this week in Kenya, you all are celebrating your Fire Safety Week, your Fire Prevention Week. I've seen a lot of really encouraging activities going on out in the schools and things, so we're just super excited to see that. And if there's any ways that we at Africa Fire Mission can help to support you guys in those endeavors, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will come in the chat here. If you stick with us for at least 70% of today's training, which is usually about 40 or 45 minutes, you'll receive a certificate of attendance for the training. If you can't stick around for that long or you lose your internet connection, keep your eye on the chat. In a little bit here, I'll put some information how you can reach our Google Drive folder, where you can see recording of today's training, as well as any of the other trainings that we've done so far this year. And if you answer a few questions from those, we'll give you a certificate of attendance for that as well. Before we get started, I'm going to pass things over to Richard, and he's going to get us started with a few words of encouragement. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. Welcome so much, everyone, for joining the class today, the lesson today. My name is Richard Gichina. I'm a firefighter, and as I a volunteer fire advocate and training with the AFM. Today's word of encouragement, I just want to try and talk about patience. Patience is a virtue that to some of us, it is not really simple, but as a firefighter, I'm trying to picture it like something like what is happening in Morocco currently. They had magnitude of earthquake. You can see those guys trying to dig on the levels and on the building collapses that are happening. So we as firefighters, we always face intense scenes. At some point, we have the adrenaline pumping extra, and we feel like the fire engine is traveling too slow, and we cannot be able to reach at the fire scene. So my thing is, my advice to everyone is we need to be a little bit patient in ourselves. Probably with our checks, they are a little bit smaller, but with time, as we practice patience and also commitment, we can be able to go an extra mile. So let's try it. Let's do our best and to practice patience. We know as kids, we try to bring them up. And also as this training is happening for at least 70% time, that's around 45 minutes. So we also need to practice some patience. Thank you so much, guys. We are here together. We can run something and feel free. Thank you, Chief Mike.
Thank you very much, Richard. Appreciate those words. Just a few other reminders after we get finished with today's training. At the end of the hour mark, I will switch over to our tea time, which is a time where you can ask questions about today's topic or any other topic that may be on your mind. It's a great time for some fellowship and some interaction amongst our fellow firefighters. So I invite you to stick around for that as well. Like I said, keep your eye on the chat for information with links to our Google Drive. Just a quick note about your certificates. The screen name that you're using here in Zoom is the name that'll be on those certificates, and those are sort of automatically generated through our system. So I encourage you to make sure that the name that you want on your certificate is the name that you're using as your screen name. And just another note, we don't retain copies of those certificates after we issue those, so please secure those as best you can. We don't have an ability to reissue those for you after they're sent out. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pass things back to Richard for today's class. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much, Chief Mike. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Okay, looks like Richard lost his connection there. Bear with us for just a few moments. Okay, I'm gonna jump in here and fill in until we can manage to get Richard back with us here. Okay, so let me just move a few things around. All right, so let's see what we're working with here today. Why are we why are we doing this? Why do we need to get out there and do our fire prevention activities in the schools? So if you were with us for last week we were talking about fire inspections. So we spoke about getting out into the community and inspecting those buildings, and we had a couple purposes for those inspections. We wanted to do it for the safety of the community, right? We want to do that for fire prevention, to find things that could cause us a problem and address those before a fire breaks out, maybe a dangerous situation or something like that. Okay. As we go off into the schools, we can do some inspections like that as well, right? So as we're visiting our schools, we can do some inspecting to make sure that the buildings are safe, to make sure that they've got, fire extinguishers if they're available, that there are fire exits that are out and available. Okay. But then are they also doing their own pre-planning? In schools, we've got a high number of people. It can be kind of chaotic. Imagine if a fire breaks out within a school during classes. You've got lots of students, so we need to make sure that they've planned well ahead of time to make sure that everybody can get out, in a safe manner. It's really critical that we get in there and that we observe those drills. There should be some pre-made plans that are already set out, showing the students where they need to go, maps of the school. We don't want everyone in the school trying to exit out of the same exit, right? We want to try to disperse the students and the staff so that they can get out of quickly and also safe. So where those exits may be, do they exit out to a busy street where there may be traffic or things like that? There's Richard. Richard, you're back, brother. If you want to jump in here, let me see. I got Richard back online there. Making sure that that everybody can see where they're supposed to be going. They're not stepping out into traffic, that they've got things planned, and that they've practiced those drills as well to make sure that everybody knows where they're going and what they're doing in the case of an emergency, right?
So thank you so much, Chief Mike, for that information. Sorry, I lost my power all of a sudden and the backup didn't kick in. I'm sure we have seen about the essential of fire drills as so essential in schools. Even we go back to our facilities, we always look at them. These drills always help in mastering and bringing the children or the students into the emergency mode atmosphere. But you remember one thing, the fire does not tell you when it comes, and this is an emergency. So for you to be able to manage, for the students or the pupils to be able to manage themselves well, so that we don't have too many injuries along the way, we need to do this. So next. Yeah, here are some of the reasons that we always say, like, one thing that we need to teach these in schools. Number one, identification of weaknesses. When we do some practice and practical session with them, it helps us to identify the gaps that they are facing, and then we can be able to advise on what should be done on that gap. so that the gap can narrow down, or we can make some few changes here and there. Then when you are making practice, we always say like practice make it perfect, but it makes everyone better in understanding such a circumstance. You know, a good example is when we have something called, like, we have a training somewhere. The teacher always, or the instructor is always at the front to facilitate. So we, as the firefighters, when we go to these calls, we have already practiced on our side. So we go to implement whatever we have learned here. We take it to the student and to the staff, so that we can be able to make sure, like, also them, they are in good shape. Continuation of also the skills is we need to familiarize ourselves, or the students need to familiarize themselves with the environment. They need to see the exit routes. They need to see the fire extinguishers where they are situated. They need to look at the pavement. They need to look at the staircase. They need to know where the escalator is, or the lift. They need to know why not to use the lift or the escalator when there's a fire. Then the other thing is we can do reinforcement. Yeah, maybe they had a plan and it needs to be reviewed. So this one is also good when you do this for the schools, so that we can be able to have them. Then we can also be able to give them more room for practice and help them to prevent on injuries where there is, for example, the school has what we call the laboratories, the science labs, and they have hazmat materials. If we do, we can reinforce, we can come up with an idea such that these hazmat or these hazardous materials, they are kept separately, depending with what we call the flammability, the corrosiveness. If we go back to the side of types of hazardous materials. Now, when you're preparing for fire drills in schools, we have very critical or crucial things that we need to look. Remember one thing: the fire drills, this is a simulation. It is not the actual fire drill. Whatever we do, wherever we go, we go to train, is a simulations. So when you do these simulations all over, or most frequent from time to time, maybe you have a schedule that you can do like twice a year, once a year, or thrice a year, depending with the with the circumstance, depending also with the magnitude of the school, depending with also the areas of the geographical areas. They need to be frequently. At least, we always recommend at least twice a year. That's every 6 months. Essential things that we need to look is, do they have a disaster response plan? If they have it, do they have the knowledge? Do they have the skills? Do they have the team? Do they have is it actualized in real sense? If you look at the disaster management cycle, this is one side, it has green, and the other side it has yellow. I would say the side with yellow is after an event, something has happened. Then the side with the green, it has not yet happened. So here we are trying to mitigate, and also if anything happens, what they can do. They have preparations. This is what we do. This is when we go to them to train them, to give them information, and then response. It is, do they have the fire and what we call the fire and the fire tools, the firefighting tools and equipment. Then recovery, they have that. So this one can incorporate, if it's a school, make sure that the student also are also are incorporated in the disaster response unit. You can have the teachers, the board of directors, the principals, the school the students, the all called the watchmans or the security personnel, so that we can be able to. It's a group, and we will see how many people we have seen. Like it's something that needs to be there, and it needs to be checked always, a frequent thing. And then also on continuation, do they have the fire safety, the fire safety equipment? These are fire extinguishers. You can see we have fire extinguishers, we have hose reel, we have hoses, we have fire blankets, we know them well, we have the smoke detectors. If they are available, we need to go and check if these equipments are up to date. Are they serviced? Are they is the maintenance done to them? Then this one is we have to do regular inspections. Each of them are to give regular inspections, which we always say if it's between we can do quarterly or half a year. Quarterly means like once in 3 months, and also we can do once in 6 months, depending with the SOPs, the standard operation procedures of the department, and also the guidance and the SOGs. Sorry. What's next? This is what we are saying. You need to appoint a disaster response team. This is when we say this team, it is what that will be going through the service or the school when you are not available. We as the instructors or we as the facilitators, we might not be at the institution for the longest time. So what happens is you can get a group of people that maybe once in a while you can be communicating and trying to see if everything that was supposed to be pressed on site is pressed. Are the fire equipment in good conditions? Have they been used? Yes. So these are some of the things that this team will be doing. Other considerations that we need to be very careful with, it's time. Time means we have during the day and during the night. If it's in town, because of the jam or what you call the traffic jams, we have the peak hours, the off-peak hours. We have when the traffic flow is smooth. We have sometimes that the traffic flow is combusted, and we cannot, and you can't have so much to do, or the response team will be affected. So when you're when you're doing inspection and when you're trying to have something like that, you need to consider time. What's next? The other thing is the mode of communications. We need to have effective communication modes. We have the radios that we always use. We can have messages. We can have all the mobile phones. We can also they have what you call the automated email system, like what the AFM does with the certificates. That's most of the time in time, we have like what the certificates are given, they are ushered in in due time, in real time, so that we can have information sent. We can have making sure like the alarm system are on. Another thing is have if the school has communication devices, you make sure like they are up to standard. The other thing is accountability. accountability. We need to make sure, like, if something happened, have we accounted for each and every student that is available? The teachers, you have to know how many teachers the school. This is when we need to know, like, how many teachers were present on the school. We need to know how many students were present in the school. Do we have any visitors? Do we have any people living with disability in the facility? Is everyone accounted for? Okay, next. And then by the end of the day, after you do all that, we need to check on evacuation procedure. This drill will help. This will help the student to exactly the people in the school will be able to make sure, like, they know where to go. In case of fire, we need to tell them this is the way we need to go. Use what we call the fire exit route, the fire exit signs in the schools. Make sure they understand. Then after they evacuate from the building, we should come up with an idea where we have also a form of, we have the assembly point. That is where now we have to carry out the accountabilities. We have to check who was in, who is not available, so that this is the reason we must have somewhere people will congregate or people will come together, so that we can be able to see who is in and who is outside, who is not absent, who is present and who is absent. Next. Yeah, Chief Mike, with your permission, we wanted to break the groups into small groups. We can have like 5 minutes. I'm sure everyone can be able to watch. In the groups you are, I'm sure we can be able to go to the AFM channel for more. We have so much info. It's so much full of information and resources.
And what would you like them to do while they're in the group?
Yeah, so I wanted us to look at the website. Let me share a screen of the website so that everyone can be able to see. I think everyone can see my screen. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I want us to go to this resource center. We have training. So group 1, or the first group, will be able, there's something I'm looking for. Resources. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll have 5 groups. Chief Mike?
Yes.
If you have, we'll have the 8 groups with 80 participants, so that we'll have some groups that we'll talk about these things, these lessons. We have these lessons that we needed us to talk about. Simply because whatever we are learning today, it is the information can be found directly to the AFM website. We can see this, Chief Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. For training for the children's, because we know that the children and everyone else will definitely come back home after school. So this is what we have. We came up with in sometimes. Got it back. Thank you. So if you look at this is something that you can be able to download it on the website. You can go at your own time. You can go look at it. we have this type of fires that we always find. We can find them in school and we can also find them at home. We say we have the candles, the cooking pot. I want us to try and look at, in case the students or the pupils or any other person in the school catches fire. Now this is a side that we said we need to practice. This is what we're trying to look at. We see we can have the stop, drop, and roll. This will help you put off the fire. Then we have how to exit a building full of smoke. The Edith, I think everyone we can be able to check on Edith. Chief Mike, do you have the Edith projection?
I do not have it where I can access easily.
We can work it out. Exit from a building. The one thing that you need to know, if the kids are the building is full of smoke, we know that the hot air rises together with the smoke. So the best idea for you to get out of the house, it is to scroll. You scroll down you go on your phone, and now that's the hand and the nails as you move to the exit. And if you're moving to the wall, if you're passing through the wall, with your palm should be the upper side of the hand with the palm and the other side. This side should be the one trying to guide you through the wall. Simply because when you move with the palm on the wall, if something hurts you or something burns you, it is always very easy for someone to grab. So with this side, it is easier. So because this side is more sensitive than this one. So where there is so much heat, you can be able to feel if the much more heat with this side, and then you can fall. If you're going out with if it's an adult with the babies in the house, if the baby is a toddler or a baby that is not they're not walking, they're less than 2 years of age. Sorry. What you do, you carry that baby and put them inside. Sorry for that. You put the baby inside your clothes or inside your jacket. If you have a jacket, you put the baby inside the jacket and you crawl with them. If the baby can, if the child or the people can be able to crawl with you, make sure they don't grab your pants, they grab on your jacket. If you have a jacket, you have a jumper, you have a sweater, let them hold on the sweater. When they hold on your pants or your trousers, the trouser might fall and you might lose them. So make sure that they hold on your jacket, on your upper garments, and go telling them, go talking to them. Like, for example, you go telling them, yes, we are going out, we will soon be out. So that you can feel, or so that you can know if the baby is, or if the person or the other person is with you, or the people is with you. Are we together to that point? So the moment you exit, everyone exits, we said we have to go to we have to make sure like everyone else goes to the assembly area so that we can have the accountability. We can check on numbers, we can check on everyone who is present, and see if we have some who are left behind. We have people who are, we make sure like everyone, the building is clear from anything else. And with that, without further ado, Chief Mike, if we can have a question and answer.
Yeah, let me just show you guys one other maybe. Here is here's our fire safety curriculum page. Okay, so you go to www.africafiremission.org. You come up here, go to resources, fire safety curriculum, and that will bring you to this page here. If you scroll down, like today's topic, we're talking about doing fire prevention in schools. So maybe you're not quite sure what to do. If we come down here, let me see. Where did I just see this? If you click on the little plus sign, you can open up a lot. Here we are. So I'm under, let's see, we're under the section for fire safety handouts and additional lessons. Okay. So here we've got fire drills. So here you've got, a little layout to really walk you through exactly what you need to do for a fire evacuation drill. So if you've never done this before, here we lay it all out for you, okay? And some best practices here. Have they done one before? It's recommended to do it monthly. How do you sound the alarm if there's a fire? Is there a fire alarm system, or what's your system? What are the exits? What could be blocking the exits? What are the procedures for the drill? Okay. And it walks you through all the different steps. It talks about planning, how you can plan the drill, a walkthrough of the building with the leaders, the school leaders, walk them through, show them everything. Okay. You're going to review what the sound for the fire alarm is with them, pick your time, and then conduct your drill. Once it's done, what are you going to do? And then something that we always do after any type of a fire incident or training or anything that we do, you sort of have that debriefing, that after action review. Here's the things that you should talk about during that. So here you've got a simple, 3-page document that walks you through everything you need to know to conduct a fire evacuation drill, whether it be a school, or whether it be a business or whatever. So I strongly encourage you all, that website, most of the that resources section of Africa Fire Mission's website is all for you guys. It's all resources for you to use. They're free. There's no charge. If you can get those resources printed out, we're constantly working on developing more resources for you guys to have available. So I encourage everyone, like Richard said, to take a look at that, take a look at those resources, and please utilize those in any way that you wish. Do we have any questions at all about fire safety inspections and presentations and drills and things in the schools? We'll open up the floor if you'd like to raise your hand. Or go ahead and unmute and ask your question, type a question into the chat. Our breakout rooms didn't work quite as well as we'd hoped. We'll work on that and get that. That was the first time we tried to work with those. So we'll work on that and try to get that smoothed out a little bit for the next time. Any questions? If we don't have any direct questions, yes, sir, go ahead. Yes, our friend from Australia. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Perhaps, thanks, Richard, for that presentation there. Sometimes the technical glitches will happen with technology, and you learn from those lessons and you get better. Perhaps this question is directed to Richard, and pardon my ignorance. You're talking about conducting these drills. I'm assuming that you facilitate some of these drills at schools. what I wasn't too sure, my question is in two parts. One, are you dealing with boarding schools, day schools, primary schools, high schools, universities, colleges across the board? And perhaps I was just curious because back in the day, I grew up, went to high school in Kenya, primary school, high school, university in Kenya. But I don't ever remember anyone mentioning anything like an emergency evacuation plan. So I'm curious to know how many of those actually do have, number one, emergency evacuation plans, and how receptive are institution administrators, primary school, high school, colleges, to taking a serious note of this and perhaps undertaking monthly drills, as Mike is suggesting there. But number two, we talk about having multiple exits. Is that the case, and what is your experience in facilitating some of these drills? Because I remember in some of the dorms, we used to call them, we lived, there was only one way out, and most of the windows were boarded and were grills. You couldn't get out. And we have had disasters that have happened in Kenya as a result of these fires and having only one exit. And if the fire is that end, then people have lost their lives. So just wanting to get your experience on your challenges and barriers you experience.
Yeah, sure. It's so challenges. When you go to tell someone, you go to a principal, to a headmaster, to a chancellor, and you tell them that you need this is what you do, this is what you feel the institution should do. They always come up with this idea like, okay, you want to teach our kids how to light fire in their dormitories. It's a very big challenge. But now at the current the building code have changed, and they have. You remember we had several fires, and we had the one fire that burned over 60 students in one dormitory. So the National Housing Committee settled down, and they changed the curriculum. Currently, if you're doing a school or you're doing a big house or what you call them, these we call apartments for the schools, the doors have to be opening outward, and it should be very big. The doors they're supposed to be what we call, it should be more than 4 foot on the wings, so that if everyone was to come up, the door should open outward. Those are some of the reforms that we have had. Then with the current situations, okay, so I'm not being sarcastic, but I'm sometimes the school that have been touched by these incidents, you go tell them what they can do to curb them, they turn to be positive. They are positively, and they are welcoming those informations. Like, for example, I've gone for like 6 schools. We have done like six schools with Jose, and out of the 6 schools that we have gone, we have tried to form something. We have come up with a solution for them. 4 have responded positively. So for me, I think it's a win, because you see, these guys, sometimes we ignore things. We know, like, if it happens to that school, it can never happen to my school. So then we also have this issue of it's too expensive. It's another challenge that we have. It is too expensive. But we thank God, the government is picking this thing and picking it at a very high rate. With the schools, with the current administration, the schools, they're being forced to have fire extinguishers on the schools. And then they do the fire extinguishers. The Auditor General, I saw a document, the Auditor General questioning why these fire extinguishers are not yet serviced. So the other challenge we have is also the students. Some of them, they have this idea, like, if you give them the information, they just assume, and they want to use it negatively. Like, for example, I went to a university, and you tell them this is what you want to do, and they're looking at you like, this is my day off. This is my time. I needed to relax. You come in to engage me to other things. So it's a challenge. But the thing is, we are positive. We thank everyone for participating. AFM has given us the platform, and they're also giving us power to. But they're backing us so much so that we can feel we can have the impact. The target is a closed bond. It is all over. It is every school, be it a kindergarten, be it a primary school, a secondary school, a tertiary institutions. Currently, I know you have seen some very much input with the government putting a lot of resources on these tertiary schools. So they are also taking the response. This is something that it cuts across, because remember, the student will go to school during the day, and during the night they will be at home. So you have to make sure like you balance. You go to boarding school, to day schools. We are working with all over.
Thank you.
You're much welcome.
And there's been quite a bit of progress made, you know. I know from our perspective at AFM over the last 10 years, as we've been working and encouraging this kind of work, we've seen some positive results. There's some data out there showing that some burn injuries and things are being reduced because of the work that our volunteers do out there in the community. So we always run into that. There's an attitude when you begin to talk about something that may be new, that is especially related to these types of topics, and you get a response, well, why would you wish for something bad to happen to us? You know, so that's one of the big barriers that we find that you have to overcome, is convincing people to be prepared for that emergency. And just by preparing for the emergency, it doesn't mean that we wish that it's going to happen and that it'll make things better if it does. So I think there's maybe a little that may be a little bit of a cultural item, you know, that you've got to try to overcome as well. I see we've got another question there. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question, sir, go ahead.
Thank you very much for according us this platform to interact and learn quite a lot of things. As Richard, it just reminded me the recent fire that we had at a certain government boarding school here in Zambia, Central Province, Kapiri, to be particular. From the little knowledge that I've gathered, I found that it's imperative that these governments, politicians, and tend to do away with the fire and safety regulations. And in most cases, we find that they don't engage fire officers, starting from the planning stage, implementation. You only find that maybe they will engage us during the completion stage, where they need occupation certification. And in most cases, these government institutions tend to be immune from fire inspections. Here in Zambia, I don't see ourselves conducting inspections in government institutions. In most cases, we do carry out fire inspections in private schools. And I've never seen a fire extinguisher at a government school, apart from an old hose-reel hose, which is dysfunctional at the moment. And tend to bend away from that. We have markets in Zambia, and market fires are a common thing in Zambia. Most of the big markets we have in Zambia, you'll find that there are makeshift stands. There is a city on the Copperbelt province of Zambia. We've got a common, it usually experiences fires you'll find that maybe in a month it will be twice, within 3 months, thrice. So I've noticed that government has neglected the fire authorities in all what they do. Most of the times we are neglected. We are not considered. Just like Instructor Richard said, in most of these government schools, you find that they have single exits. Students are confined in places whereby if there is an emergency, expect a stampede. Even in these government universities, some of them, it's very rare that you find a fire assembly point near the hostels. These government universities, most of them do offer self-catering facilities. You find that there is a kitchen with a single exit. But at the end of the day, safety precautions are not followed. You won't even find a fire extinguisher there. These simple spiral element, he starts using it as a stove. At the end of the day, the Africa Fire Mission come on board to challenge these governments, because we're selfish politicians that only do these things to, according to, they tend in engaging other stakeholders on board is a waste of resources. So we ask you to be quick enough so that the objectives of this mission are attained. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. You know, you're not alone there. In Zambia, the things that you're describing, we see throughout Africa, and that's really, you know, one of the big focuses that we have with Africa Fire Mission is that advocacy portion, and trying to support you guys, empower you guys. That's where we really encourage you to check out that webpage that we've got with those resources. One of the best ways that you can convince maybe a school or someone to let you come in and to do the drills and to do that stuff is to show up when you're well prepared. So if you show up, you're well dressed in a station uniform or at least some nicely cleaned and pressed clothes, and you come bring some of the documents that we've got to show that you're well prepared, that you've got that well planned out outline of how to do things. We're trying to get these tools into your hands so that you can show that you are in fact the subject matter experts, right? As firefighters, you're the subject matter experts on fire safety in schools and all those sorts of things, and try to present you as such to the government. So that's really that's critical. That's what we're trying to do, is get that education, bring you guys up in that training levels, prepare you guys to be those subject matter experts so that you can go out into the community and into the schools and begin to do this work. And like I said, we've got quite a success story, I think, in Kenya, from the way things were, 10 years ago to where they're at now. And we're seeing that beginning to spread out in the other countries where we're working. So we encourage everybody to dig into those resources and use those. And we're going to wrap up the formal portion of our training here. I encourage you all to stick around for a little bit more discussion. We'd like to hear what you all are doing out there and your experiences in the schools. So I encourage you to stick around for tea time. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up today's training with a thank you to Richard for leading today's class, and a thank you to all of you for attending and sticking through, even though we had a little bit of technical difficulty when we tried to do those breakout rooms. I invite you to come back again next week. We've got plenty of room here. Invite all of your friends as well. Thanks, everyone.